Rule 1 of surviving the end of the world. Never trust a man with a clipboard and a free bunker. I used to be an ICU nurse in Baltimore, before the collapse, before the debt riots, before the military started reallocating anyone with useful skills into designated safe spaces. When FEMA rolled up in black trucks and told me I'd been selected for Bunker Z41, I thought maybe someone had figured shit out. They'd even had a brochure, Life Below, Hope Above. Real fucking cute. That was a year ago. Day 1, they took our phones, our IDs, even my wedding ring. Biohazard risk, they said. The descent into the bunker was clean, efficient, sterile, like a colonoscopy. There were 47 of us, scientists, medics, a few civilians with useful trade skills. And him, Commander Ridge, jaw like granite and eyes that never fucking blinked. Said he was in charge until surface recovery. Spoiler, that day never came. By month 2, we ran out of antidepressants. By month 4, we ran out of toothpaste. By month 6, we ran out of Ridge's patience. That's when the ration fight started. He made us fight for food, said it kept us sharp. Every Sunday, 2 names were drawn from a rusted ammo box. Whoever won the fight got an extra ration. Loser went hungry. And if you refused, you got the room. No one talked about the room, but those that went in came back quieter, almost catatonic. Day 211. My turn. I was 5 feet 4 inches and down 20 pounds. My opponent was Paul, an HVAC tech who once tried to corner me. He was desperate. I was pissed. I wrapped the duct tape around my fists, looked him in the eyes and said, "You swing at me, Paul, and I'll rip your fucking pancreas out through your ass." He laughed. I broke 3 of his ribs when I body slammed his side on the edge of a bunk. I got the extra ration. And my nickname, Bunker Bitch. Perhaps I should have told him I knew jujitsu. Somewhere around month 8, I started talking to Cal, ex-engineer, mute since month 3. Shell shock or some shit. He never spoke, but he listened. We shared rations, warmth, even messed around once, behind the comms cabinet like 2 raccoons in heat. I thought maybe we could make it out together. That was until I found the stash. It was hidden behind the vent near the water purifiers. A pile of bones, small, gnawed clean. I could see divots in the bones as if they were chewed on to get every last piece of flesh. Then I found the drawing. Crayon. A crude, smiling face labeled Uncle Cal. I stared at it for a full minute. That night, I crushed Cal's throat with a rat trap and stuffed his body into the waste chute. Didn't cry, didn't scream, just sat in the dark, wishing I could have done more, and hummed an old tune while the backup fans whirred like broken lungs. 3 days later, the air scrubbers failed. Carbon levels spiked. People started hallucinating. Ridge locked himself in the armory and shot at shadows for 6 hours straight. Someone smeared shit on the walls in the shape of a smiley face. I crawled through the decomposing ventilation shaft. Rats nibbled my hands. The shaft reeked like sweat, mold, and old meat. It felt like climbing out of hell's asshole. I emerged into the surface world coughing black tar in the sunlight. The world was ash and ruin. No birds, no wind. Just smoke drifting in the distance just over the skeletons of strip malls. I thought I'd made it. Then I saw the billboard. Half collapsed. Weather-beaten, but still legible. Zone B quarantine in effect. Survivors will be shot. I bolted. The world didn't end in a single, cataclysmic event. No asteroid, no nuclear war, no biblical reckoning. America rotted from the inside out. Slow, agonizing, inevitable. It started with the usual. protests turning violent, politicians making empty promises, the rich getting richer while the rest of us scrambled for scraps. Then came the riots, the food shortages, and the blackouts. Cities became war zones. The police weren't just outnumbered, they stopped caring. Whole districts burned while officials gave speeches about unity and resilience. Then the supply chains broke. When the stores were empty, the real monsters came out. Neighbors turned on each other. People who spent their lives behind desks suddenly found themselves stabbing each other over a can of beans. You ever seen a soccer mom cave someone's head in with a hammer? I have. The government tried to keep control. They deployed the National Guard, implemented curfews, promised emergency relief. It was too late. When banks collapsed and money became worthless, law and order died for good. The only rule left was survival. That's how I lost my family. About a week before I was recognized as a nurse and taken to the bunker, I saw my husband get shot in the face for protecting the last of our food. I buried him in the backyard before setting out alone. I was a fighter before the world turned to shit. I trained in jiu-jitsu for years, and it kept me alive longer than most. But knowing how to break someone's arm doesn't stop a bullet. I was scavenging an abandoned strip mall, the same one I saw when I clawed my way out of that hellhole bunker. When I saw them, 3 men, rifles slung over their shoulders, moving with the kind of ease that only comes from knowing you're the predator. I barely had time to duck behind a rusted-out car before one of them spotted me.
Hey!
He called, voice sharp with excitement. I bolted, ran like my ass was on fire. The streets were a maze of wrecked cars, shattered glass, and the skeletal remains of what used to be civilization. I weaved through alleyways, hopping fences, cutting through backyards overgrown with weeds. I turned the corner to an alley entrance when I slammed into him. He turned and grabbed my throat the same time I elbowed it away and grabbed his. Holy shit. It was Tom, the man who taught me everything I knew about fighting. He was leaner, rougher, but I'd recognize him in that stance anywhere. His mouth hung open, disbelief flickering across his face.
No time, run!
I gasped. We took off together, moving in sync, silent except for the pounding of our feet against the pavement. I followed Tom and realized after a few blocks that he was going to our old studio. The front windows were shattered, mats torn up. The place looked beat to all hell. We went through a side entrance to what I thought was going to be the studio, but instead was the gun shop next to it. It was given the same treatment as our old training studio, maybe worse. Tom went to the back of the building. The shelf-covered walls were painted with giant murals and graffiti, and hidden between the rows of shelving was a panic room. I understood then the paint was to distract from any visible seams the door made. And that's where we found Jay. He was sitting in the corner, clutching a crowbar like it was a lifeline.
Well, shit. Didn't think I'd see you again.
I smiled. In this new world, survival wasn't just about fighting. It was about finding the right people. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't alone. Turns out Tom and Jay ransacked the jiu-jitsu studio, the gun shop, and a few others. They wanted to be sure all windows were busted and everything was on full display. That everything was gone, picked over because if a place looks like it can't offer goods or shelter, people tended to just move on. When everything went sideways, they stuck together. They actually camped out in the mountains to get away from the crazy that was the city. Thinking by the time they returned, things would have settled, and people wouldn't be in such a heightened state of panic. They were wrong. Tom saw early on how people were dragged from their homes, how they were beaten, viciously, brutally, savagely beaten. Then right there, on the front lawn, chopped up and hauled away like they were no more than just pieces of meat. Staying home wasn't safe anymore. That's when he set his sights on the gun shop. I found out later, the neighbors Tom had known for 15 years and saw Butchert had owned the gun shop. He helped them build out the panic room and remembered how they laughed about the just in case of it all. Tom had just started training Jay about 6 months before things got truly fucked. Jay knew enough to be useful, but I didn't know if he had picked up more lessons since then. Only time would tell. We stayed in that panic room, scavenged and planned for 2 months. We strategized, ran through maps and fail-safes around trails we knew. Somewhere along the way, we started hearing whispers about a compound, a supposed safe zone of sorts. We decided we'd make a break for it. We couldn't hold here in the panic room forever. The plan was to find this compound, scout it, and decide for ourselves. And if this safe zone was a myth, we'd fortify one of the handful of hunting cabins we knew that were scattered in the forest. We saw the skinned deer strung up in the trees, like a macabre mile marker. This is when Tom decided to cut through the forest, instead of staying at the edge of the tree line. It would take longer, but we didn't want to be visible to anyone watching the roads. That deer might have been somebody's dinner, or might have been somebody's warning. We kept walking. We had no idea if our first destination, an old family cabin, was compromised. But the snow was falling, and we had no choice but to keep moving forward. The trap wasn't meant for animals. Tom figured it out first. Right after it's cold, steel jaws snapped around his ankle with vicious precision. The sound was wet and meaty, like someone taking a hammer to a steak. A strangled cry ripped from his throat as he collapsed, hands clawing at the metal contraption sinking its teeth into his leg. This wasn't some rusty, forgotten contraption that poachers leave behind. No, this thing was so clean, it gleamed under the canopy. Polished to a mirror shine. Someone had oiled the hinges, and someone had said it recently, which meant someone, somewhere, was watching. Oh, fuck me, I breathed as I hurriedly scanned the tree line. My pulse hammered so loud it drowned out the pained, ragged sounds coming from Tom. We tried not to do more damage, but the trap and our hands were slick with his blood. The thing was designed for pain. It wasn't enough that it clamped down. Its teeth sawed back and forth, chewing into him every time we moved as we pried Tom's leg loose. When we finally got him free, we could see how bad it was. It was bad, worse than bad. The bone jutted through his skin like a snapped-off antler, hot blood pooling and melting the snow, mixing with the leaves beneath him. He wasn't going anywhere. Tom knew it, and so did we.
You know what to do.
He wheezed, pale as a corpse.
Get out of here before...
Just then, a high-pitched whistle cut through the trees. Slow, almost playful. I turned, my stomach knotting into something hard and cold. A man stood at the tree line, half hidden in shadow. In his hand, the glint of metal promising nothing but pain. He was too far for me to make out what it was exactly, but I knew it'd be something long and sharp. Then he waved. As if on cue, 3 more figures melted from the shadows behind him, stepping into view. Their laughter was soft, almost amused. Tom shuddered beneath me, and through my nurse's eye, I knew that was not only from pain, but blood loss.
Run.
His weak plea echoed in my ears while the men started towards us. Oddly, I flashed back to a time where this situation would be a scene in a movie I'd be watching from the safety of my own home. Now, the world as we knew it was gone. In that suspended moment, I knew we had become the main course in someone's twisted hunt, and I knew what I had to do. Tom had always taken the lead, always told us if something happened, it should be him first. He was the oldest, the one who had lived the longest. I pressed my hunting knife to his throat. He nodded. No words, just understanding. His eyes shifted to the light snowfall. I plunged my hunting knife into Tom's neck, straight through the soft flesh under his chin. His body jerked once, then nothing. The laughter in the trees stopped. Jay and I ran, our boots crunching through the snow, lungs heaving steam into the frigid air. But I wasn't panicking. Not like Jay. He was muttering how he couldn't believe I actually did what I did, slipping every third step like a man who hadn't run in weeks. I was focused, cold, calculating. This wasn't a panic dash. It was tactical. I told Jay to shut up and keep up. Every path I chose, every tree I ducked behind, every ditch we jumped, I did it to bleed our trail into the terrain. Let them follow. Let them think we were rabbits in the brush. I wasn't running from them. I was leading them. I didn't blame Jay for being emotional. He hadn't had the training. Tom, my uncle, was a retired Navy SEAL. He not only taught me jujitsu, but survival strategy, and more importantly, how to think like prey when you're really the predator. These men back there, the ones whistling and grinning in the woods, they were hunters, the kind that don't just kill, but gorge themselves on fear. Then they feast. I thought Cal from back in the bunker was a one-of-a-kind sick fuck. I was wrong. On the surface, they called it fresh meat. That wasn't a figure of speech. Since coming back to the surface, I heard these types yell it like it was a toast when they found people to cannibalize. I've seen what they left in their wake when I was scavenging. Bones stripped clean, journals with twisted little sketches and meal notes. It was more than survival for them. It was sport, ritual, indulgence. And if I ever got caught, I promised myself one thing. I'd die with my own blade in my throat before I let one of them touch me. Jay stumbled beside me, bleeding from a graze on his shoulder.
We're not gonna make it.
He gasped. I didn't slow down. Shut up and keep moving.
You stepped Tom.
He made that call, I snapped. Same one we'll have to make if it comes to it. We found the cabin by dusk. The men were still tracking us. They weren't in a rush about it, though. With the snow on the ground and Jay bleeding, it would be easy to follow. Besides, I wasn't trying to throw them off our trail. I had a feeling they knew the forest well. But so did I. Luck was on our side. I kicked the door open and cleared the cabin in seconds. The place was empty. Then got to work. I hadn't been here in years, and it was a relic. Rotting floorboards, a rusted stove, and the stench of damp wood. But it had 4 walls, a door that still latched, and enough shadows to hide the traps I had in mind. Jay slumped against the far wall, clutching his shoulder. His breath came in shallow bursts.
They'll be here soon.
He muttered. I know. I didn't look up. My hands moved fast, methodical. The wire from my pack became a trip line, strung taut just inside the doorway at ankle height. The old kerosene lantern in Jay's pack, drained, its fuel now soaked into a ragged strip of cloth tucked under the windowsill. A match would turn it into a wall of fire, if it came to that. Then there was my hunting knife. I'd make sure they paid for what they did. I crouched by the window, peering through a crack in the boarded glass. Snow swirled in the fading light. No whistles yet, no laughter, but they were out there. Close. Jay's voice was hoarse.
What's the play?
Surprise, then pain. I ran through what my uncle taught me in my head. Not just the throws or the locks, but for the mindset. Control the space. Use their momentum against them. This cabin was my mat now, and they'd walk right into my guard. A sound outside, a boot crunching snow. I pressed a finger to my lips. Jay stiffened, eyes wide. First trap, the wire. The door burst open. A man lunged inside and went down hard, face first into the floorboards. I was on him before he could shout, my knee driving into his spine, my blade finding the soft space behind his ear. He twitched once, then silence. Outside, voices snarled.
Told you she would be nasty.
One of them laughed. I bared my teeth. The dead man's breath still hung in the air when the second hunter kicked his corpse aside and stepped inside. Big, thick-necked, a cleaver in one hand, rust-spotted and notched from use. He didn't see the wire. His boot caught. He stumbled, just enough. I lunged. You see, jiu-jitsu isn't about strength. It's about angles. His momentum carried him forward, and I used it, twisting, my leg hooking behind his knee as I drove my shoulder into his ribs. It's not enough to know you are hitting another person. To be effective, you have to visualize your move going through your opponent. He went down like a sack of shit. The cleaver skittered away. He snarled, rolling, but I was already on his back, forearm locked under his chin. His carotid pulsed against my skin. Squeeze. He thrashed, fingers clawing at my arm, boots hammering the floor. I held. 5 seconds. 10, 20. His face darkened, veins bulging. A wet, guttural sound escaped him. Then nothing. His body sagged. I didn't wait to watch him die. Outside, a whistle cut through the dark.
Jimmy?
No answer.
Go in and get him.
Fuck!
2 left. The third man came in low, a pistol sweeping the room. He saw the bodies. Didn't see me, hunched behind the door, knife in hand. His first shot went wide, splintering the wall. His second never came. I buried my blade under his ribs. Up, twist. He gasped, hot blood gushing over my fingers. His knees buckled, and I rode him down, driving the knife deeper until his breath hitched, then stopped. I heard something clatter behind me and whipped my head around. Jay was behind me, blood splattered on his shirt. I looked at the floor and saw the back of the second man's head split open, and next to him, the bloodied cleaver.
He was starting to get up.
His voice was steady, but he looked like he might pass out. I looked him in the eyes. You did good. Now get your shit together. He nodded, breathing hard. The last man didn't rush in. Smart. Snow crunched outside, circling. Then glass shattered. A Molotov crashed through the window, flames erupting along the fuel-soaked sill. Fire licked up the wall, smoke choking the air. Jay coughed, staggering to his feet.
We gotta go.
No, I grabbed his arm. He wants us to run. The hunter was waiting for that. For panic. For prey. But I wasn't prey. I yanked the burning cloth from the window, hurled it into the snow. We had some time. I pushed Jay right up next to the door frame. If I don't come back in 15 seconds, book it. His eyes were scared, but he nodded. The door was wide open, and I saw the last man standing 10 paces away, holding a machete, a grin splitting his face. I picked up the cleaver.
Bitch, I'm gonna make you scream for the bullet you wasted.
Erroneously, I smiled, flashing back to my old nickname, Bunker Bitch. He raised his machete.
Time for fresh.
I didn't let him finish. The cleaver flew through the air and took him in the chest as I ran at him. His mouth was still open by the time I made it to him, and drove my knife up in his stomach. He gagged, hands flying to the hilt, blood bubbling between his fingers. His grin melted into shock. I watched him as he dropped to his knees. You're right, I said, wrenching the blade free and running it across his throat. It is fresh. Then silence. But I knew better. This wasn't over. Hunters don't stop until the hunt ends. And I wasn't done hunting. We stripped the bodies of anything useful. They had one gun, looked like a Glock, but I wasn't 100% sure. I could shoot, but I'm more of a blade person. I gave the gun to Jay. They had 2 knives. They were big bitches, but they didn't take care of them. Mine now. I grabbed the cleaver and machete along with half-rotten jerky in their packs. We took it all. Jay hit the jackpot when he found 2 sets of keys.
I'm betting whatever they drove is closer to where they set their trap.
I nodded, scanning the tree line. That makes sense to me. We doubled back, circled a ridge. I took us in a wide loop through the brush, tracking our own prints and dragging branches to blur the trail. We tracked the footprints, broken twigs, tire ruts half covered by snow. A mile down, we found them. 2 trucks. I admit I was impressed. You don't see many running vehicles nowadays. One of them had Tom's body in the bed. Jay froze. I walked over, brushed snow from Tom's face. His eyes were open, empty, his jaw slack. The blood had frozen into a crust around his neck wound. We're not leaving him like this, I said. Jay swallowed hard and shook his head. We dug with our hands, broke up snow and frozen earth with the butt of a rifle we found in the truck. It wasn't a grave. It was a snow-covered pit. But it was something. Jay looked like he might crack again, so I put a hand on his shoulder. Get your gear in the truck. I'll finish covering him. He nodded and stepped away. I dropped to my knees beside Tom's body. I'm sorry, I breathed. You took me in when my parents died, raised me, and died for me. It's your time to rest now. Then I made my promises, not to him, but to myself, to the forest, to the monsters who thought they owned this world. 1, I'd get Jay to that fucking compound if I had to carve the path through corpses to get there. 2, every last butcher who feasted on innocence. I'd hunt them, not for justice, but to watch the light leave their eyes, like it did Tom's. Then I heard it, a sharp crack, not from ice, not from a tree, from bone. I turned. Too late. Jay's body dropped beside the truck. His skull cracked open like a melon. Blood pooled in the snow. 4 men stood nearby, grinning. One held a bloody bat. Another raised his fist in triumph.
Dinner's back on,
one of them said. The one in the back, taller, more composed, crouched beside Jay and pulled the keys from his pocket.
He has both sets. Find the others.
He ordered. They spread out. I didn't move. Not yet. Because now the hunt was on. For a heart-stopping second, I was sure they'd follow my tracks straight to me. Right up to the sad little snow mound that used to be Tom. But the trees here were thick, greedy bastards, hogging all the snowfall like it was their personal fucking property. Guess that's why they'd parked their psycho parade here. One wrong step deeper, though, and they'd see it. My boot prints leading into the clearing like a big dumb arrow pointing to free meat, come get it. I stopped breathing. One of them, a lanky fucker with a hatchet dangling from his belt like a fashion statement, paused, stared right at my tree. Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
Tracks. Hey, get over here.
The man turned back. I exhaled so hard I nearly fogged up the damn forest. They'd found Jay's in my old trail, the one from when we'd first bolted. The relief that flooded through me almost made me lightheaded. When they found their buddies' bodies, they were thrilled. Pissed, sure. How dare someone turn their hunters into carcasses, but mostly just giddy at the bonus meat. One of them actually licked his lips, staring at the dead like they were a buffet. Another threw back his head and howled, like this was some fucked up Christmas morning. The cabin was still smoldering, its ribs of blackened timber jutting into the sky. I watched from the ridge, counting them. 6 now. 2 fresh faces, probably the same pricks who turned those deer into gory party streamers. They moved like a pack of wolves, high on blood and fire, all snarls and tension. But I'd already decided, Even wolves can be gutted. The leader, who I named Fuckface for the sake of organization in my head, kept scanning the trees. Smart guy. Too bad his crew were idiots. The first kill was easy. Kid couldn't have been more than 20. Wandered off to take a leak. I let him finish, then clamped my hand over his mouth and slid the knife in the side of his neck. Just so. No scream. Just a wet sigh, like a deflating tire. His blood hit the snow like hot syrup. They found him 40 minutes later. The arguing started instantly. Fuckface snarled at them to spread out. Oops. Next was Bat Guy. Big, lumbering son of a bitch who thought he'd earned a break. Sat his ass right on a log like he was waiting for a bus. I crept up behind him, pressed the blade under his skull, and gave it a twist. He slumped forward, chin on his chest, like he dozed off mid-thought. I left him there. Then, because I'm helpful, I carved fresh meat into his chest and hung the bat from a noose made of his own shoelaces. Message fucking received. 2 kills in, their leader finally wised up.
We're rolling out.
He barked. I smiled. Like hell they would leave all that bonus meat behind. They would take it. But dragging corpses through snow is a bitch, and I was counting on it. I doubled back to the trucks before they did. Jay's body was already in the bed, stacked between a skinned deer and a rabbit like some fucked up grocery haul. His bag was there too, along with a couple of others. Perfect. I shucked off my pack, tossed it in with the rest, and belly crawled under the pile. Winter gear kept me from freezing solid, but the cold still gnawed at my bones. The bodies on top of me would serve as insulation and cover. By the time they made it back to the truck, those poor guys must have been all tuckered out. They just threw the bodies in the back without checking on anything else. The engines growled to life. For hours, we lurched through the dark. I drifted in and out, half dreaming of the hells from the bunker to the surface. Then, screech. The truck stopped. A gate groaned open. We rolled forward, and just like that, the open night was gone, swallowed by a metal ceiling. The truck bed smelled like a bouquet of blood and shit. My face was pressed against the skinned deer's ribcage. Jay had his cold, stiff hand pressed against my ribs. I didn't move it. I didn't move at all. The truck stopped, and all I could see was the corrugated metal streaked with rust. My fingers stayed tight around the handle of my hunting knife. The weight of 3 throwing blades digging into the inside of my jacket. Every nerve in me screamed to run, to fight, to just breathe clean air. But I stayed put. 4 left, and I had 4 knives. Almost poetic. Boots crunched gravel outside as doors slammed. I played corpse while they argued about dinner plans.
Leave the hall.
Fuckface ordered.
We'll deal with it after we eat. Butcher shop can wait.
I counted. 30 seconds, then 30 more. When the conversations and footsteps faded, I shifted under my meat blanket. Cadaver yoga. Not something they taught in nursing school. Slow, careful, sliding out from under a tangle of limbs and fur. The dead shifted around me, skin cold and stiff. Poor Jay, he stared up at nothing. I didn't flinch. I'd seen worse. I'd done worse. I peered over the edge of the truck bed. A barn, not a garage. Chains, hooks, rusted tractor parts. And off to the left, an attached building. 1 light barely flickering. 2 choices. Go in. Scout outside. I was weighing my options when I heard it. A sound so faint it barely registered. A woman's sob. Ragged. Empty. Like she didn't have any tears left, but the pain kept leaking out anyway. It came from the building. Tactically, it was a shit idea. I'm one person. But these bastards were, well, bastards. Didn't matter. I bit down on a throwing knife, dropped low, and moved. Quiet as death. I slid through the dark, past the hanging chains and scattered tools, until I reached the side door. Voices inside. 3, maybe 4. Quick options ran through my head. Lure one out, knife to a throat. I should just light this whole place up and watch them burn. But first, I needed to find that woman. I made my move. I slowly pushed through the door and into the dim, musty hallway beyond. It split in 3 directions. One dead ahead, one left, one right. Fuck. A sickly yellow light glowed in every corridor, but it was the harsh, brighter light straight ahead that grabbed me first. Men's laughter. The kind of sound that makes your skin crawl. So, not that way. Heart pounding, I turned right. It led to what looked like an office. Old wooden desk, metal file cabinets, and dusty shelves. But it was the map on the wall that stopped me. A huge, hand-drawn map of the county, littered with black X's and red circles. Every tiny back road, hunting trail, creek bend, all marked. I stepped closer. A ledger sat open on the desk with handwritten columns. The black X's were labeled harvested, the red circles fresh meat, and there were too many X's. I knew those places. I'd camped near some, hunted others. Dozens were little neighborhoods. I swallowed bile and looked around. Other walls, more maps, nearby counties, neighboring towns, same marks, same hell. And then I heard it. That low, staticky hum I'd tuned out as white noise when I came in. A looped broadcast crackling from a dusty CB radio next to a battered speaker. The voice was low, calm, sweet even, almost hopeful. If you're lost, come to the compound. There's food, water, safety, hope. My throat tightened. We believed it. Tom believed it. We followed that damn signal like sheep to slaughter. I closed my eyes, clutching my knife until my palm hurt. And then a scream. Raw, throat-tearing, hopeless. Close. I snapped my eyes open. The scream was coming from the room with the men. Shit. I crept down the hallway, keeping low, moving like Uncle Tom taught me. Knife in one hand, the cold concrete under my palm. The laughter got louder, uglier. I slid up to the doorway, heart pounding so hard it felt like it'd give me away. Slow, steady breath. I dropped flat, inching forward and peered in from the shadows. Dining hall. A long table, cluttered bottles, side dishes, and slabs of meat I didn't want to look too closely at. 4 bastards left. Then I saw them. 2 women. One was cooking, moving stiffly. Her ankle shackled to a long chain bolted into the concrete floor. She had a pan in her hand, but no fight in her face. Not yet. The other tied to a chair, fork sticking out of her thigh, blood around it. Eyes wild, pissed. Good. She spotted me, and I mean locked on. Big, wet, desperate eyes. I held a finger to my lips, shook my head slow. Not yet. I did a nurse's scan without even thinking. Fork wound hurt like hell, I'm sure, but it wasn't bad. No gushing arterial bleed. She wasn't going into shock. The woman cooking was mobile, alert, but there was something hollow about her. I ran a mental check on what I had. Hunting knife, 3 throwing knives, killer dance moves, 4 men, 2 potential allies, 1 chance. I needed a plan, fast. Separate them, ambush, disable, quiet if possible, brutal if necessary. I grinned to myself. It was going to get bloody either way. Here's the thing. In a real fight, you don't fight fair. You fight to win. I ghosted back down the hall, back to the office with the dusty shelves, and grabbed what I saw earlier. A rusted wrench. Perfect weight. I tossed it down the opposite corridor. It clattered loud, echoing like a gunshot. I listened while they told Chad to check things out. He was a young guy, shaggy hair, holding a machete. I waited around the corner, silent, invisible. As he passed, I snatched a fistful of his greasy hair, yanked his head back, and drove my knife through his throat. It punched through soft flesh, scraping spine. He gargled wetly as warm spray hit my face. Shh. Indoor voice, motherfucker, I hissed in his ear, lowering him down slow. One down. I heard movement in the hall. My guess is the sound brought a second one. Big boy, carrying a hammer. As I stepped back into the hall, I sent a throwing knife flying. Thunk. Right into his shoulder. Shit. I was aiming for his face. He screamed like a stuck pig anyway. I didn't wait. I charged, and a few things happened simultaneously. I heard footsteps running away from the fight, and the big boy swung his hammer. He put his weight into it, which made him twist and lodge the hammer in the wall. That gave me time to hit low. Quickly, I dropped and sliced his Achilles tendon. It was his turn to drop. I pulled the hammer out and found a new place to lodge it. It broke through his eye cavity with the wet crunch. Blood fountained, hot and reeking. 2 down. I peeked into the dining hall again. The third one, clever guy, was standing behind Fork Leg Lady, holding his own hunting knife to her face. Number 4, the leader, was gone. Time to get creative. The woman's eyes locked onto mine, terrified but sharp. Good. That meant she might not flinch when shit went sideways. Clever guy pressed his blade to her cheek. A thin red line welled up.
Drop the hammer,
He hissed. I let it clatter to the floor. Fine. Hammers were overrated anyway.
Knives too.
He demanded. I shrugged, pulled my last throwing knife from my belt, and tossed it. Not at him. Not at her. At the oil lantern hanging from the ceiling behind them. Glass shattered. Fire rained down. Clever guy jerked back, swatting at the sudden heat. The woman didn't hesitate. She bit down on the arm still wrapped around her throat. That's when I moved. He came at me too, hunting knife swinging. Bad idea. I sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, twisted hard, Kote Geisha style, and flipped him clean over. He hit the floor, gasping, his knife clattering away. I dropped a knee to his chest, but he was quick. His elbow cracked me in the jaw, stars bursting behind my eyes. We grappled, teeth bared. He landed a solid punch to my ribs. I felt them bend. Didn't matter, because he started choking me then. The chained cook moved. She snatched the knife, her face changing, a flicker of life in those dead eyes. She cut the bound woman free. The moment those ropes were loose, the woman grabbed the knife, and she buried it under Clever Guy's jaw, right up through the soft palate, steel-punching brain. He convulsed. 3 down. We all sat there, panting in the aftermath. Blood, sweat, and adrenaline thick in the air. The woman with the fork still stuck in her thigh yanked it out with a wince. We actually smiled at each other, a crazy blood-slick grin between survivors. That's when the rifle shot cracked. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Wood splintered just inches from my head. The bastard leader was back, and he wasn't laughing anymore. The rifle shot shattered the silence, a sharp crack of death. I dove behind a table. Splinters rained down where the fork woman had been standing a second ago. The leader stood at the far end of the hall.
You bitches think you're tough? Only a matter of time before I crack your skulls open and eat what's inside.
Not today, motherfucker. I grabbed the nearest thing, a busted table leg, and slid it toward the woman who'd been bound. She scooped it up, eyes narrowing. The chained woman, still trembling, ducked behind a cabinet. But something had changed in her. She wasn't dead inside anymore. The bastard advanced, firing. A shot punched through a hanging light, showering sparks. I bolted left. The former bound woman rolled right. He followed me, predictable. I was the new guy causing chaos in his sick little world after all. I ran into what I assumed would be the kitchen. My goal, more knives. Turns out I was half right. It was an area where food was prepped. A couple of huge stainless steel tables bolted to the floor. One of them had veggie scraps and next to it a big cutting knife. But the dozen or so meat hooks hanging overhead really got my attention. Then there were the bodies, 2. Both skinned, mutilated, glistening muscle and fat for all to see. I couldn't even tell if these were men or women. And the second body was gone from the ribcage down. Hanging sinew gently swayed in the breeze. Another shot grazed my arm, fire under my skin. That gave me the incentive I needed. I vaulted a table, diving behind an old metal rack filled with jars of I don't know what. The leader stalked forward. You think you really did something here today? All you did was save me the trouble of slaughtering them this winter. I moved through the racks. I hate to tell you this, but your leadership skills are horrible. He laughed, so I laughed. There we were, just 2 crazy kids laughing. Then I saw her. Fork leg lady, waiting in the dark, silent as a ghost. She pointed up, the hooks. I moved low, behind her racks of jars. So what's your big plan here? Just going to eat the world? I don't know what I was saying, but I needed to keep his attention on me. He shot at where I was a moment ago, glass shattering. You know, you're not a very good shot. He shot again.
Fucking bitch.
He was under the hooks now. Oh, come on. Maybe we can partner. You have a nice little setup here. I could even teach you to shoot. She was closing in. But he was too focused to notice her softly putting down the table leg I gave her earlier. Then, like she was the fucking Flash, she grabbed a rusted meat hook swung down and up, burring the hook into his back. He dropped his gun. His scream was pure animal. She jumped up and gave the chain a savage yank, pulling him to his toes. He screamed again. I ran out from my glass jar safe space and kicked his gun away. We hauled on the chain, ripping him skyward, flesh splitting, his body hanging grotesquely from the ceiling like one of his own kills. I had no idea how to keep him there. Then she told me to move towards the table. The chain was long enough to wrap around, which was hard as fuck to do. I kept pinching my skin with the chains, but we managed. I thought I was going to bust a vein trying to keep him in place, while she grabbed anything she could and shoved it through the loops of the chain, creating a lock. He tried to thrash around, but he found out real quick the pain wasn't worth it. For the first time, Forkleg spoke.
Nice ninja moves.
She held out her hand.
Detective Pierre.
And that explained her stealth mode. I shook her hand. They call me Bunker. Bunker bitch if you're nasty. She furrowed her eyebrows, then cracked a smile. The detective went back to pick up her discarded table leg, and I watched as she bashed his kneecaps, bones snapping like dry twigs. He howled and shook with pain, the hook tearing deeper as it held him halfway up. His eyes met mine, begging. I smiled with all of my teeth in the whites of my eyes, just to amp up the crazy. I didn't kill him just yet, though. I didn't want his death to be fast. We'd won. It took a few tries before we were able to get the lady with the leg chain free. We sat in the aftermath on the front porch. Blood, sweat, grief. The meek one finally spoke.
I'm Sam in this. This was my home.
Tears cut clean lines down her dirty face.
I let people in. I really did try to make this a real safe place, and managed for a while. Then they came one night, killed my family, turned it into this, made me cook, or die.
I squeezed her shoulder. The detective, name was Kara, pulled a cigarette from God knows where.
I was a detective. They traded me here. Neighboring counties tribute.
Her laugh was bitter, cracked.
There's others. Counties out there. Little barbarian kingdoms. They trade meat, weapons, women. Call it the Pact. Keeps the blood flowing. Keeps them from wiping each other out.
I spat on the floor. Not anymore. I grabbed the map from the office wall, the one with the X's and red circles, held it up in the growing light. We're burning this shit down. Every last one. The detective grinned. The meek one, no, not meek anymore, picked up a knife.
We'll need more weapons. I'm not a fighter like you guys, but I know how to live off the land.
I smiled. You are a fighter, and we'll find more. As dawn cracked the sky, the three of us stood in front of the barn, the compound smoldering behind us. We could hear the man on the meat hook screaming inside as he burned, smoke curling like a signal. Not a cry for help, a fucking warning. We weren't prey. We were the hunters, and hell was coming with us. And that's a wrap for the story you, the viewer, picked from our Pick Your Poison series. Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't already, tap that little notification bell so you never miss a new story. I do my best to drop stories every Sunday and Wednesday. If you have a story idea, a creepy scene, or a twisted element you'd love to hear, send it my way at holdyourbreathstories@gmail.com or drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Your support means the world, and I appreciate every single one of you. Well, until next time.